Bonsoir Racers! So, here are my top 5 tips on how to race your RC car a bit faster. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I get it. I'm just like you guys. I want to go flat out as fast as I can, absolutely everywhere. The issue with that is I'm just not a good enough driver to handle all that pace and speed. So consequently my lines suffer, so you drift wide on corners, which is all shedding time. You're then overcorrecting as you come back into the corner, shedding time. You run the risk of crashes because you're not controlling the car properly, especially if you're in your first 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons of RC car racing across any of the disciplines of cars. Buggies, 110 touring cars, the stuff I like to race, all the 12 scale stuff. If you're not consistently smooth, I guarantee you're not fast. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. 2. Patience, guys. Patience. This isn't a sport where the learning curve is uber steep. It is a slow learning curve and it progressively gets quicker, just like the Expo on my throttle now. It's one of those things where experience is so important.
We've got an engineer, we've got a teacher, we've got an old person, and we've got a bald head racing tonight. Collective age on the podium of about 400 years old.
But patience when you're racing, patience when you're qualifying. Try not to force it in. I've been in so many situations in qualifying where you're just racing against the clock, but you can't help but get sucked into a little battle with a car that might be close to you. Instead of maybe easing off a little bit, let them go ahead, or because that then doesn't compromise your actual qualifying time. Every time you get embroiled in a battle, you are shedding time. You just it's compromising everything you do, especially in qualifying. When it comes to racing, the best piece of advice I've been given is we all like a good competitive race where it's nip and tuck and maybe we're swapping positions here and there. But one of the best things you can do is actually just follow the driver in front, assuming your times are reasonably good. So let's say it's one of the mains and you're following the driver in front. Patience, it will allow you to see where they're a bit slower, see where they're running wider and you could maybe take them. Don't immediately go for that gap. You just don't know how that driver's going to predict. And the best bit of this is 9 times out of 10, just the pressure of you being behind that driver will force an error. So you don't even have to try to pass them. 9 times out of 10, an error will come and you can capitalize on it. Tip number 3. Prior planning and preparation prevent very poor performance. Now, what do I mean by that? I know that I sacrifice a lot of performance on my car because the time I take doing these videos is time away from wrenching on the car or checking the car over. The more effort you put in to checking over your car the week before a race or a couple of nights before a race or having a look over your car during a race, we all go for the social aspect of it, and at no point am I saying don't talk to people, don't interact, don't do any of that. But take 5-10 minutes after you've finished each qualifying, after you've finished each race, look over your car, get your socket, check all the nuts. Are they nipped up? Has anything worked loose during the race? Has anything cracked? Have you chunked a tyre? Is everything as it should be? Are you doing everything in your power to make sure when you put that car on the track it's as right as it can be? And that way you've no excuses. You can't blame the car for something. It's all on your driving. Now, obviously there's circumstances to one side and things like that, but for so long I was applying tyre additive wrong and not wiping it off in time, and that so compromised my car, so that now I'm dead disciplined with how I do that. I take the time. So preparation before you go to a race event. Make sure you've got some spares with you. Make sure you've got some tools with you. Make sure you're as ready as you can be for that £10-20 investment for the day when you go racing, that you've that you're not going to compromise your day and have to come home early for the sake of a £2 or £3 fix. Number 4, and I am really guilty of this, only because just like you, I'm a family guy, so I've got my wife, my child, kids to look after. I've got a full-time job. I do this sort of malarkey. I don't get enough sleep. I'm always tired. But the downside of that is tiredness affects your driving in so many ways. Your eyesight isn't quite what it should be because you will have sleepy, tired eyes, so you're potentially not judging the corners quite correctly. Poor judgment comes through being tired. You will make silly decisions and you will think, that'll do. And when it won't do. The reality is you're compromising your qualifying, you're compromising your racing, you're compromising everything just through that'll do because I'm tired and I can't be bothered to sort it. And you're grumpy, which tiredness really affects how you drive. You will drive angry, you will drive frustrated. A little thing on the track, which 9 times out of 10, it's toy car racing, guys, it isn't a big deal, but it will become the biggest thing in the world in your mind as you're racing. So one little issue on track, and you'll be affected by that by being tired. It puts you on a shorter fuse, you're not as patient as you should be. So again, affected. So everything when it comes to tiredness and toy car racing is affected. Get a good night's sleep on 2-3 days before an event because you are going to need it. And it's dead stressful racing these cars. I don't care what anybody says. A big smile on my face doing it. But in that 5 minutes of a qualifying or a final, I don't think I blink. I don't think I take a breath sometimes. And I know that my hands shake from adrenaline. All of that can be dealt with and handled better if you're just not tired. 5. Tip 5. There is no substitute at all for track time. Just going and turning laps. In America, you would call it stick time, I think. There is just no substitute at all for time on track. And it helps if you're driving and spending your time with the car that you want to race, but of all varieties of car, just go and drive some RC cars. It's all practice, it's all stick time, and it really helps. It helps your confidence, it helps muscle memory, especially if you're driving the same track with the same car you'll be racing. Muscle memory is hugely important with it, and you only develop that through doing it time and time and time again. The thing that I can't emphasize this enough, if you think about an average race night for me at the moment is maybe 3.5-4 hours. But if you break that down for how much time I'm physically on track, if I don't turn up early to do a bit of practicing with an open track, you've got 3 5-minute qualifying sessions and 1 6-minute final. So I've got across 3.5 hours, if I don't do any practice, I've got physically 26 minutes. Have I? Yeah, that was some maths. 26 minutes of track time across 3.5 hours. It's not a lot of time driving. But if you could turn up an hour early if the track's open, get a good half an hour, 40 minutes, a couple of batteries running through your car. It would be great to have 2 cars all set up identical, then you're not sort of wearing the motor out on another one. But even that, the benefit you will find through just turning laps, the more laps you can put in, the better. And from a personal note, I noticed a big jump in how my driving was developing when I started going to different clubs, different track layouts, different grip levels. Everything was an adaptation for and benefit of learning for when I went racing at my local track. So I spent a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but I think I did about 4 or 5 meetings down at Urmston, which is predominantly an oval circuit track. But they turn it into a little circuit on a Monday night. Brilliant. Instantly noticed the jump in my driving ability and standards because more track time, the more racing you can do. There's no getting away from it. I think there's a quote that says an expert has to do something for over 10,000 hours before they could become an expert or an Olympian or any particular sport that you're doing. There needs to be that hours investment before you get so good at it, you're doing it just like driving a real car. We don't really think about driving real cars after you've been doing it 10, 15 years, because you've done it that much. It all becomes second nature. And that's where the track time comes in. So you're racing and driving your RC car becomes second nature, so that you can focus on all the little tweaks and changes that you can make to your car to make it better. And notice the little tweaks and changes that you do to it, because you've got so much practice in. Right guys, hope you found that useful. I enjoyed putting this video together. Hope you found it useful. If you have, please leave a comment in the description below. Like, comment and subscribe as always. Toodle pip guys.